Okay, so we're going to get it called back to order here. It's 11:13. So we'll pick up with item G as in golf public comment. I think we have about 5 or so speakers. If everyone could just start with their name and the city they reside in, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Good morning. Dennis Jolly. I live in Viera. I'm also representing, I have a vacation rental in Cocoa Beach. And I'm here to address the issue of vacation rentals that are closed in the direction by the governor to the county boards to generate a plan to open the vacation rentals. Thank you for allowing me to speak. The novel coronavirus has impacted Brevard's vacation rental community in unprecedented ways. The Florida local community and state government leaders have issued and implemented directives, regulations, and actions which were disjointed and confusing for the small vacation rental business owner and citizens of the community. At present, we're all aware they closed stores, beaches, parking, and now they're trying to come up with a plan to reactivate the businesses and to save the community. Their first action was to open up the hotels and motels and inns and keep the vacation rentals closed. In my estimation, that was a harebrained idea. I don't understand the thinking behind that, so I've come to educate you on some of the facts of the vacation rental market and also how they operate. First off, I'm going to give you some financial and economic data. There are approximately 485 beach vacation rental condos now closed in Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral. That's not even counting the Space Coast beach cities south. There are more vacation rental condos than hotel and motel rooms in the market area. The vacation rental condos have more stay days than the hotel motel market. Vacation rental condos generate more tourist sales tax and vacation tourist tax than hotel motels and inns. The closed vacation condos has been a major loss to the Florida tourist tax monies. Cocoa Beach travel agents, this is another side for my input here. The Brevard County Travel Tourist Agency is going to spend $70,000 of tourist tax dollars promoting Brevard hotel and motel stays on freeway signs and brochures. Show me where County Tourist Market Committee has ever advertised vacation condo market rentals. Never has, never will happen. How about spending some of that tourist tax monies on condo, vacation rental, marketing, advertising?
Sir, I appreciate your coming out, but unfortunately you've run out of time. I do have a question for you.
Run out of time?
Yeah, I apologize, sir. I do have one question for you, if you don't
Go
mind,
ahead.
though. So you'd made a comment, and I just wanted to ask you to repeat it, if you would, about the sales tax or the tourist tax collected from the vacation rentals. Could you say that again, what it was that you said?
I said the the vacation rental, sales tax, and tourist tax is generated by them than by the hotel motel market in the Brevard County.
I appreciate it, sir.
Okay?
Commissioner Tobias, do you have a question?
Yes, and normally I don't comment, but I do have a board report concerning vacation rentals.
Yes, sir.
As we're all aware, the governor made an announcement that would not have given us ample time to put it on the agenda. So, sir, if you wait till the end, I will be making a motion to authorize staff to put together their required documentation to send up to DBPR so vacation rentals can open up. But that is something that just came through, and that's why it's not on this agenda. So thank you for coming out.
And I'll give you the heads up. Depending on how he phrases that, there's a high likelihood I'll second that.
Could I make one final comment? I ask that you accelerate this plan and get it to the state for its approval, because we have we have the summer market, we've lost all the spring market, major financial impact here. We've had to return all our monies to all our rental people, and now they're canceling in the June, July market area. Thank
Sir,
you.
I apologize for cutting you off again, but unfortunately, we've got a couple other folks that are lined up there, but I think you may well get what you want today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tovey, welcome, sir.
Charles Tovey, 2555 Melbourne. I didn't write a description on what I was going to, it was about my property. About 8 years ago, and a mandatory hearings on all Brevard County and all the people I listed under appeals against the order that you did against me. And I came to the meeting, and Sergeant told me if I come back I'd be arrested, and I went up to the county attorney's office and told them that. And as I was telling them that, because I was on the agenda and I couldn't go, the sergeant, Deputy Holland, were there, just found me, and they were advised that they couldn't do that. But I didn't go because I didn't want to get arrested. So it progressed, and then 8 years ago, with the mandatory hearings, I came up here on a Wednesday, and I spoke to Mel Scott and told him I'd be packed up and ready to go on Monday. So Monday morning came. I came back up here to advise them that I was ready to go, and while I was doing that, they were clearing my property. Well, when I came on Wednesday to tell the manager's office, they gave me a week. To me, a week is 7 days, Wednesday to Wednesday. They knew I was packed up and ready to go on Monday, and they cleared my property anyways. So now what do I do? And there's more. I just don't have time. A minute and 25 seconds left. And you want me to fill this out again, and it's a lie. So they can get money. And I don't have a home, and I don't have anything because of the government enforcement. Well, after all my stuff was taken, I paid $3,000 cash to get it back the day after, and then I was postponed for a month and a half. They couldn't find the keys, and then he was in Daytona, so I finally got the chance to go up there, and all my stuff was piled up and stripped. I paid the $3,000, and I expected all my personal property back in the condition it was when you left it, and almost fixed and all ready to go, but no. It was all destroyed and packed up. They deliberately did it. Meanwhile, I still have all the issues at my property, and no one's doing anything about it, or to the aggressive criminals that have damaged my life. Why do I come to these meetings? My God and Savior, Jesus Christ, directed me to come. I have no other avenues to go to, and I'm at the mercy of your commission. I'm looking for some kind of way we can work this out instead of going to court. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Tovey.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is, oh, can you hear me?
I apologize. Just saying morning.
My name is Drew Groff from Satellite Beach. I hope you're doing well and appreciate you taking the time to discuss our concerns. I'm here on behalf of Stay in Cocoa Beach and would like to propose a safe reopening to our vacation rentals in Brevard County. I'd like to start off by saying that I truly recognize and appreciate the decisions made by your commission to date. The order you put in place in April was clearly done with the best interests of our Brevard County in mind. That order had purpose, and it treated all accommodations in a similar manner and did not allow anyone to accept tourists or leisure guests. We believe it was the right decision as it was necessary for the benefit of the general public. We also commend you on your decision not to renew that order that expired in May. However, in comparison to the measures that were taken by our county, vacation rentals have now been shut down by the state for over 55 days, all while hotels, motels, inns, resorts, and timeshares have continued to welcome guests with absolutely no restrictions. Put simply, travelers are already going to be here. Does it really matter if they choose to stay in a hotel or in the condo building right next door? In fact, vacation rentals actually represent a form of accommodation that better supports the concepts of social distancing, be it self-check-in, fully equipped kitchens, no lobbies, restaurants, bars. In addition, you would be throwing us small, local-owned businesses a much-needed lifeline. That is an opportunity for us to start contributing to the revival of our economy. Last year alone, my company paid out $290,000 in Brevard County tourist taxes alone, another $385 to the state. That's roughly $675,000 just in sales and use tax. If we're forced to close, those taxes go away for good. More importantly than just the tourist tax dollars, we in turn provide much needed jobs for our staff, our cleaners, our maintenance technicians, building managers, marketing team. We provide our local businesses who have been hit the hardest with the customers they need to get back on their feet. Our community needs us now more than ever to give the money back and get people working again. We've had more than enough time now to properly prepare ourselves, our staff, and our properties for reopening, recognizing the new guidelines that our industry has started adopting, which all conform to CDC and DBPR guidelines. We're more than prepared than ever to offer safe, clean lodging to travelers today. I recognize and do not count the impact of the large hotel chains that they have in the area. However, creating government policies that are meant to support them at the cost of local residents and small businesses does not seem right at this time. If we're already welcoming guests from out of state to our local market, I would ask that we make sure that is allowed for vacation rentals, as that represents the largest section of our customer base. So, at the request of the governor, we urge you to immediately request a reopening of vacation rentals in Brevard by proposing the adoption of the DBPR cleaning framework without restrictions on out-of-state travel or waiting periods.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name's Kathy Davis. I'm a homeowner and a vacation rental owner in Cocoa Beach. My husband and I have 4 private vacation rental homes, all beachside, north of the pier in Cocoa Beach. And in each case, we vastly improved the property that we purchased. I was speaking to encourage you to open up vacation rentals, but also to open them up without unfair restrictions. Safety is important, but it's not fair to place bans or 72-hour restrictions on us when hotels, timeshares, and resorts have none. Multiple families have contacted me. Dads desperate for a private home. They want to come to Florida and just be with their families, their wife and their kids. They say they don't want a hotel. They say they want a private home with a private pool and their own kitchen. And they want to socially isolate with their family without sharing common spaces with strangers. Times are tough and we've all suffered. We have 9 private companies and contractors that we employ. 6 of those have suffered. The cleaners and the property managers have no work when they have no guests. It's difficult to calculate the monies that have been lost. I can tell you the amount that we have actually refunded. I can tell you the amount of state and local tax that's been refunded. But this doesn't take into account the bookings that have been moved ahead to next year, because those are weeks that are lost next year. It also doesn't take into account the 29 inquiries and requests that I've turned down in the last 2 weeks because of the governor's ban. Sadly, some of these families have told me that they'll go to other beaches in other states. And if they like it there, we all know they may not come back. Worst of all, there seems to be no end in sight for the Florida vacation rentals. What do I do about my June bookings? What do I do about the proposed 72 hours between the bookings? I invite this commission to come and visit my vacation homes. I'll be glad to give you a tour so that you can see for yourselves why we should be allowed to open with a fair safety plan. Please give us the same consideration that the hotels, motels, and timeshares have been given. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Mankey, and I'm from Cocoa. I manage one of those vacation rentals. In fact, the lady just in front of me. And I'm reiterating that these vacation homes are families are sheltering together. The majority of the people that come to us are families, mama, papa, grandma, grandpa, and the children. So they're already living together. Not in every case, but in many cases. We have well-equipped modern kitchens. These people are cooking at home. Maybe they're not going to that. Maybe, it doesn't require them to go to a restaurant. So they're sheltering even more. They have private pools. They're not in a public pool. And each individual, the home that I manage happens to be 2,400 square feet. If you put 8 guests in that gives each person 300 square feet. That's a lot more than a 6-foot distancing. And the other thing I really would like to address is the 72 hours that apparently the governor thought was a good idea. I think it's excessive. I don't think they're doing it in the motels. I'm sure it's a quick turnaround. But even if he wanted to impose 24 hours, I'm there as a manager. I go there and I check the house after it's been cleaned or while it's being cleaned. And we use every precaution that we can already now. So I ask that the vacation homes be opened up right away. That's all. And God bless our county and our country.
Thank you.
We're in a mess.
Amen.
You.
Thanks. She's my favorite so far.
Good morning. My name is Tina Krockenberger, and I live in Cocoa Beach. I manage a condominium complex on the beach near the pier. My husband and I are resident managers. We've been in Cocoa Beach for 6 years, and we have quite a following. Our rental business has been in existence for over 45 years. Most of our owners, we only manage one facility. Most of our owners have people that come back year after year after year. And a lot of them are looking forward to coming back in July. I have one resident or tenant that has been coming for 35 years. And she's very upset that we may not be able to take her in this year. So we're asking that the county put forth their request to the governor for reopening the vacation rentals. And in addition to that, it's going to help our housekeeping staff come back online to be paid, revenues for the state, sales and use tax, and the Brevard County tourist tax. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello. My name is Cindy McGrath. I'm a resident of Satellite Beach. I'm a manager of Indian Harbor Beach Club, which consists of 43 rentals. Additionally, I manage 18 other properties in Brevard County. And of course, we are in support of the reopening of short-term rentals. COVID has affected my small business along with my associates and the 61 owners that I represent in managing their units. Since the outbreak of COVID, we have taken the necessary steps to sanitize all the common areas, including the pool chairs throughout the day. We are on-site management, so we are able to ensure the social distancing. We also have an outside cleaning company that has taken extra measures to sanitize all condos. We believe we are a safer and cleaner complex than a normal hotel. We are licensed with the state of Florida under Division of Hotels and timeshares, so why are we unable to open like the hotels? Unlike hotels, our units are individually owned and the prolonged ban of short-term rentals could ultimately put some of the owners at risk of foreclosure. Some owners are elderly and count on this income to supplement their income. We are safe and should be allowed to reopen along with hotels, resorts, and timeshares that have already been allowed to reopen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. May I have a couple more? Okay, perfect. Mr. Bramson,
Good morning.
welcome.
Hi. Is the clock going to work? Okay. Good morning, Mike Bramson. I reside in Altamont Springs. I'm the president of the Firefighters Union. First, I'd like to start off with a good morning, and I'd like to thank the commissioners for their resolutions this morning. Those addressed a lot of aspects to your public safety group and the safety of the citizens of Brevard County and the visitors of Brevard County. Along with all the other special interest groups that have been up here, people with private interests as well as other ongoing situations in Brevard County, fire rescue has also had a synergistic effect with the COVID-19. It has complicated our response, it's increased our risk, and like I said last time, the things that happen on a day-to-day basis still exist. People are still having cancer survivors, still have to go to doctor's offices, heart attacks, strokes. Those continue to exist, and now we've had this new angle of how we do things. Society is going to call that the new normal. We don't know what's going to happen, so we just call that the new normal. Why I bring this up today is we are opening up Brevard County. We had our trial for our new lifeguards, and one of your resolutions addressed drownings. If you had a successful rescue of a drowning, the requirements for survivability is the same of those of this COVID. Respiratory assistance is going to be required, and you can see how that becomes a synergistic effect. We are now doubled down on the resources available and our response model. We are also now entering a level of negotiations, and you're about to go into recess. One of the main key points for me to address the commission together as a group, as you are right now, is if there's an opportunity during negotiations with the county manager and your negotiator, and there's an opportunity to speak, we hope the communication between the commission and us stays open. You've talked about special meetings already. That kind of killed that line item for me. But if there's an opportunity for discussion, I hope that you at least open that door and we can communicate before July 7th. That's a long time for our firefighters to sit on the sidelines to wonder what's going to happen to us during these negotiations. Thank you very much for your time. As we move forward, I want to thank you and everybody else, the citizens of Brevard County, for the overwhelming support of public safety. Police officers, frontline, nurses, doctors, all the teachers and what they're doing with this unique type of learning, and of course the fire department and your paramedics that do this job every day, COVID or not. 30 seconds for questions if you have any. If not, I thank you very much for your time.
Any questions for Mike?
Have a great day. Thank you
Thank
very
you so much. And as always, I appreciate you and your colleagues remaining accessible. Well, let's give her a moment. We'll see if we have any more. Oh, I see the head shaking. No, okay, all right. All right. Okay, so we'll move on in that case to H's and Hotel. First item is in Commissioner Pritchett's district. Actually, the first two are. So H's and Hotel 1, the developers agreement, tract G's and Gulf Indian River Preserve. Do you have a motion?
Do we have to read anything in? Or are we ready to go?
Do we have any public comment?
I believe the applicant is here, but I don't know that I think they only want to speak in support.
I'm thinking if we're going to support it, they're probably not going to be upset with us if we go ahead and vote for it. What do you think, Commissioner Pritchett?
I think I'd like to make a motion to approve it.
And I'd like to second that motion. All in favor of approval of H's and Hotel 1, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. H's and Hotel 2, Commissioner Pritchett.
I'd like to also approve H2, sir.
All right, so I'll go ahead and second Commissioner Pritchett's motion to approve H's and Hotel 2, the petition to vacate ingress, egress, and well site easements. I'm not going to read all of that. It's the walkabout PUD plat book, such and such is indicated there, Florida Land and Cattle Corp. All in favor of approving H's and Hotel 2, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, may I have a motion for H3, since that's my district, that would like to see it pass? This is the Sunset Groves Unit 2 petition to vacate a public utility easement. All right, motion from Commissioner Smith. I'll go ahead and, Commissioner Tobias beat me to it. He seconded it. All in favor of approving H's and Hotel 3, say aye.
Aye.
And if there is any public comment, please just jump in and interrupt me for any of these.
Any notification, yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
So H's and Hotel 4, this is in Commissioner Tobias' district. It's a petition to vacate another public utility easement. Proposed Harbor Island Beach Club. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
I'll second your motion to approve, Commissioner Tobias. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Last but not least, back to Commissioner Pritchett, H's and Hotel 5, approval regarding a permanent access and utility easement, Indian River Preserve Estates Corp.
Motion to approve.
All right, I'll second. All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Pritchett. I'll go ahead and second that. All in favor of approving H's and Hotel 5, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. Ooh, flew through that. Unfinished business, there is none. We've already done J as in Juliet 1. We'll move on to J2, request for the Board of County Commissioners to send a letter to the Nature Conservancy regarding, requesting that they conduct a poll for eel referendum.
Mr. Chair, you do have speakers on the side.
All right, would you all like to hear the speakers first?
Sure.
Let's go for it.
Okay, they're just coming into the room.
Okay.
I was going to ask for
Good morning,
Vince
Commissioners.
first.
Vince Lamb, Merritt Island.
Welcome, sir.
Bo Plat, Suzanne Valencia, and I are coordinated somewhat on this topic. We've all signed up to speak on it, so I'm going to cover the first part. That the EEL program, of course, was created by referendum in 1990, approved by a 70% vote of Brevard County voters. Extended by referendum 20 more years from 2004, another 70% vote of our residents. The ad valorem tax of up to 0.208 mils, maybe 30% annual for the average homeowner. The funding will expire in 2024. The EEL program currently manages 25,000 acres of nature sanctuaries plus 3 education centers in the county. Another 20-year referendum could occur in November 2020 or in 2022. Professional polling is a part of the referendum process, and it was conducted for both the 1990 and 2004 EEL program referendums, as well as the 2016 Lagoon referendum. The Nature Conservancy has offered to conduct a poll to determine the willingness of Brevard County voters to approve the continuing the small ad valorem tax assessments that have funded the EEL program for 20 years. A carefully selected group of voters, 500 for the Lagoon, would be chosen to represent the county demographics by age, geographic distribution, gender, and party affiliation. The poll will collect information regarding what people value most about the EEL program and, of course, their willingness to continue supporting it. The TNC will conduct this poll at no charge or obligation to Brevard County. The poll will be conducted in late June, and the results will be compiled in early July and made available to county commissioners in as early as possible, certainly late July. The last date for the county commission to put a referendum on the ballot is August 17th. However, your last meeting currently scheduled is August 4th, so that's probably the deadline date for that. My friends and I are hopeful that if this poll shows a strong voter support, that you would, of course, vote to put it on the referendum. The primary reason for doing it in 2020 is to remove the financial uncertainty surrounding the future of this popular program. Another reason is that if it fails in 2020, we can revise the approach somewhat and try again in 2022. A team of EEL program advocates are willing and ready to move this forward. This is clearly the last opportunity to move ahead with the polling on this matter, and I can answer questions now or later.
It's perfectly timed, Mr. Lamb. Any questions for him?
I'll just comment that I asked Mr. Lamb, because Mr. Lamb asked that if I could bring this to the board, and I asked him to come and speak on it. So if he has anything else to add, I would just ask that the board indulge him, only because I wanted him,
Sure.
given his history with the program, to speak as much on it as possible and to talk about it and obviously answer any questions we have.
Absolutely.
You have anything else you want to add, Mr. Lamb?
No, I want to turn it over to Bo Plat and Suzanne Valencia and let them provide their comments. And I think Mike Knight is available as staff to answer any questions that you might have also.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Vince.
sir. All right, Mr. Platt.
I'm Bo Platt from Melbourne, Florida. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you. And I'm speaking to you today, asking you to support the offer by the Nature Conservancy to conduct a poll to gauge voter support of the continued maintenance of Brevard's environmentally endangered lands. 4 years ago, I worked with a group of Brevard residents on a similar measure to post a referendum for the lagoon restoration, and as you know, that referendum passed overwhelmingly and in every precinct in the county. So Brevard's residents have twice voted previously to pass referendums protecting our natural lands for habitat. We love visiting these lands and enjoying nature, and visitors from across Florida and from across the world are attracted to Brevard to visit these lands. We invested in these lands, and we need to protect the investment by continuing to maintain them. We believe that Brevard residents will continue to support the protection of our public lands, and a poll can validate that. The poll will be done by the Nature Conservancy at no cost to Brevard residents. It's important for Brevard to act now to ensure continued funding for our endangered lands and the 3 education centers beyond 2024. We could wait until the next election in 2022, but we'd rather act now. Employees in these programs work there because they love Brevard's protected areas. But they're concerned about their future. They need assurance that they can continue to work and support their families. We've already lost employees that are concerned about job security who have moved to similar jobs in areas where they can be confident about their future. In situations like this, the best employees are often the first to leave, as they're the ones with the background and the skills that make them attractive to other employers. We believe Brevard residents are passionate about our environment. They've demonstrated this repeatedly by supporting these kinds of referendums, and a no-cost poll can verify their support. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. I hope we have enough of those wipes.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Suzanne Valencia, and I'm a resident of West Melbourne. And I hope you are all doing well, and thank you for allowing me to speak on an issue that I care about very deeply. I'm speaking today as a great-grandmother. My great-grandson just turned 3, and his best times are in the out-of-doors. He loves walking trails, learning to tell the difference between red lichen and green moss, and yes, he can do that. And he likes to visit every flower he sees and playing in the sand. When times are better, I am eager to take him up to Sam's house on Pine Island. He will be absolutely awed by the 16-foot giant sloth and by finding the ancient bones in the dig pit. And then we will follow the trail around to see the ancient hut and the game and fish laid out over the smoke pit. If you have never been there, I would very much suggest you visit. The 3 visitor centers, Sam's House on Pine Island, the Enchanted Forest in Titusville, and the Barrier Island Center on the South Beaches, play an important role in educating children of all ages about our natural environment. The centers host many school children's programs, and homeschoolers bring their children for the educational programs also. I will not be around when my great-grandson is a young man, and I do not want him to wonder why our generation did not preserve our precious natural areas. Our citizens have overwhelmingly supported the Environmentally Endangered Lands Program for many years, and I believe they will continue to do so. That is why I think it's important to ask the Nature Conservancy conduct a poll for free to let us hear what the general public has to say. I'm confident that the poll will show that our residents appreciate the EEL program and are willing to continue funding it with our usual ad valorem taxes. I checked my tax bill, and I found out that I pay all of $1.61 a month for the program. And I think the visitors will agree with me. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, that's it. All right, I've got some thoughts unless someone else wants to jump in first.
You mean
Commissioner Klein?
This was my item, so maybe.
Whatever
you're
you
starting?
want.
You
Sure,
guys
go
don't
ahead.
mind. I brought this to the board just to reiterate what I was saying earlier, because, you know, I spoke with Mr. Lamb, and he wanted to have this poll conducted at no cost to anybody on this, you know, in this government. So I think that, you know, given that, whether or not you agree with what the EELS program is, whether or not you would vote for it, 70% of our residents, who we all represent, you know, no matter your political party, no matter your biases, no matter your principled positions on things, 70% of people voted for this. So I don't think there's any harm at all. I think it would be more reckless for us as a board to put something on the ballot without having done a little bit of background research, again, at no cost to us, to make sure that this is something that people still desire to do. Because I have my own reservations about some of the spending of old and buying land that we can't maintain, and you know, I think I've made those positions pretty clear over the years. But I think that, you know, again, it's good to get a temperature check on what people are willing to tolerate, or whether or not they would be in support of it, and whether or not we as commission should bother to even put it on the ballot, because we obviously have to be cautious about what we load our ballot down with. So again, that's why I asked Mr. Lamb to come, because he's got a long history with the ILS program, very passionate about it, a very easy to talk to guy. If you ever want to invite him in your office, he can probably teach you a thing or two. But that's my position on it, and I'm hoping that the board will at least allow this first step to see where people stand.
Commissioner Spy, you want to go or you want me to go?
I'll go.
Go for it.
And thank you, Mrs. Nardi and Mr. Chairman. This is an important issue. The reason this is an important issue, this is what would amount to, assuming all of the referendum was the same as last year, same as 2004, it would be about a $40+ million new tax. And the basis for this letter is that we govern on polling data instead of principles. And I've heard some things that were said that cause reservations, because I've done polling before. The speakers mentioned the words verify and validate. They go in with a set bias. And let me give you an example. We get back that 83% of these people want this. Well, if you ask the question, and I did the math, would you be willing to pay 32 cents a month to save scrub jays and tortoises? I imagine you would hear overwhelmingly, yes, it would be 80–85%. But if you say, would you approve a $40 million tax to buy and potentially maintain land, I think you would find that at 20 or 30%. But in any case, the board made it clear on March 10th, 2020, that it is not interested in allowing normal referendum process to this charter. I introduced a measure to call a panel required under the charter for amendments, and 4 members of this board didn't want anything to do with that, which I respect, and didn't bring up any of my ideas. Now, the exact opposite is happening. As such, I would suggest to any person or organization who wishes to see the EELS tax extended, including the Nature Conservancy, that they need to figure out what needs to be done to put it on the ballot by petition. This process includes, we've looked it up, supervisor approval, registering as a PAC, and collecting and verifying signatures. Of course, the Nature Conservancy or any other organization can do whatever polling they like without the letter. So this is merely a formality. And I want us to rewind 2 hours where we had 6 or 7 speakers come up to us and say, we can't afford money for food. And yet we are going to now open the door for $40 million of new taxes. Not only do I think that this is a bad idea, I think it would be irresponsible and reckless of us to levying more taxes on people that can't afford basic sustenance. Now, I appreciate the folks for bringing this forward. I appreciate Commissioner Isnardi for doing that, and I think Commissioner Smith did that in the past, because they wanted to find out, I think, where we stood, because we'd have to there'd have to be 4 or 5 of us that would be in favor of putting this on the ballot. So let me give you my position. I don't need a poll in order to dictate where my position is going to be. Again, thank you, Nature Conservancy, for doing this, but I want to be very clear that, however, I don't care if that poll comes back that 103% of the respondents are in favor of this tax. I won't be voting on it in favor of it. So to all the folks, you've got 4 other commissioners up here who, if you get their vote, then that is a possibility, but under no circumstance will I be voting for a new tax, regardless of whatever the polling is. So I encourage you to go ahead and do it and go through the petition process, but you won't have my support to do that. Again, thank you, but I will be voting against asking for them to do a letter of a poll.
Thank you, Commissioner Tobias and Commissioner Isnardi. I do support protecting environmentally endangered lands. I don't know if we should purchase more, but I do know that the money to maintain what we do have is running out. So this is a discussion. I think the key thing that he said is it's up in 2024. And Commissioner Tobias, I agree with you. I think that gives time. If maybe they brought it to the ballot in 2022 to go out and do petitions, I'd feel a little bit better about it. As far as conducting a poll, Commissioner Isnardi, I agree, no cost to us. I don't mind if that's what they would like to do also. I do think this is important for environment right now. I have a lot of concern about our economy right now, and I do struggle with putting any tax increases on the ballot this year that's going to be a new tax. Just because of the unsure economic situation we find ourselves in today. So if we want to do a poll, this is good. They've reached out to my office about putting it on the ballot. I told them I'm probably not going to support that this time because of the situation we're in. But Commissioner Isnardi, you will have my vote to go ahead and conduct a poll, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to tell Commissioner Tobias that I appreciate his thoughts, and I mostly agree with them. And obviously, I respect the different viewpoints. But with Commissioner Pritchett's thoughts, I support this. I think it's important to, it's a valuable resource that we have in our county, the natural resources. And if we can maintain them and think about 100 years from now, it's kind of abstract, but people that are enjoying them today, like the little boy the lady was talking about, his great-grandchildren will be able to enjoy the same things that he did, even though he may not be around. So from that perspective, I think it's important. I understand and respect your position, too, with the times that we're in, but this is something that I think people feel strongly about, and I have full confidence in the American public and our ability to bounce back from this, as we have so many times before. And I'm sure that we're going to bounce back from this. And I think people can look at this objectively and say, can I afford this or can I not afford it? Do I support it or don't I support it? And I think that we should leave it up to them. If we put it on the ballot, they can say yay or nay. So yes, I'm going to support this.
And I'll throw in, I guess, the last perspective here. I've got to say, Commissioner Tobias, as hard as it is to agree with you on something, I actually do agree with you pretty well on this one. With that said, you've raised most of the points that I would have brought up in your discussions about this item. Now, that said, I've had folks tell me, well, it's not a new tax, it's just maintaining the millage. So to me, it's almost irrelevant. Whether you want to say maintaining an elevated millage is different from a new tax, the effect is the same. The bottom line in my book is, even though we're talking about something that's not going to, even if it comes to pass, come to pass for a couple of years, I can't put myself in a position where I'm comfortable voting to even ask a question about increasing taxes or maintaining an elevated millage. Granted full well that we're talking about something that will occur in the future, I think it's, in my mind, it's almost a slap in the face of the voters that are struggling, as was said, to pay for food and to pay for things of that nature. I've spoken with some staff about how we can bridge the gap with folks not paying their tax assessments over the next year or two. And one of the things that I've been looking at is what we have in reserves that we can use to buffer things to a degree. I can't talk about spending reserves to a degree and also increasing taxes. I can't balance the two. I can't maintain that. I do have concerns over the wording of any survey. I think when we hand it over to any organization, even a very well-intentioned, good organization, and I have no reason to think that the Nature Conservancy is anything but, it's going to be geared in a way that's designed to get yes as the result or a favorable response. So if we ask them, do they want a $40 million tax, I would love to see that be the proposition from any group, but it's never going to happen, not in any of our lifetimes. Given that we have at least 2.25 years before they have to have the signatures to get put on the ballot by the petition process, I don't see the urgency. It concerns me as well, although it was phrased potentially as a positive, that if they do it now, if it fails, they'll have the opportunity to come back later and do it again in a couple of years. If it fails now and they manage to word the same proposal in an even more rosy or an even rosier fashion, I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing. That said, I do think that some of the Yields projects have been good projects. Sam's House is a great project. In my district, Enchanted Forest in Commissioner Pritchett's district is a great project. But I can't, with the current climate, with the economics as they are, reconcile it in my head where I can support it. That said, I certainly understand where everyone's coming from. Commissioner Isnardi?
And just so we're clear, and I thought I made it pretty clear in the beginning of the introduction of the item, this is not suggesting we put it on the ballot. And I tried to bypass all the political grandstanding by saying this isn't based on anybody's opinion, anybody's political opinion, whether or not you'd support it. I think I was the one that yelled the loudest when the Children's Services Council was trying to put out a misleading survey. And if that's what happens here, that's obviously going to weigh on whether or not we would even consider putting it on the ballot. I think I was pretty adamant about how skewed polls can be. But the reality is, we do need more information. Personally, I don't really have a desire to rush it on the ballot right now because it is so close. But this item is asking for a survey. That's the action for this item. And I don't have a problem doing that because the county it's not going to cost us any money. And if they do skew the survey or the poll, then that's a testament to what they plan on doing to the people. And if they're going to fool the people, they will never get my support. But I don't believe that to be the case. I would hope that's not the case. By them bringing it to us, perhaps that wouldn't be the case. But I think because there are so many people in support of it, whether that be me or not, there are so many people that are in support of this program that I think it would be almost a disservice because people have invested money into it just to say, we don't care. Now, as far as getting signatures, I think that's a great idea. Maybe that's the route that they end up going. But this agenda item wasn't meant to be your political position on the EELS program or talking about taxes. I'm not raising taxes. What this was just saying, go ahead and we support the idea of you conducting a poll. So it's okay if you don't want to do it. I'm not asking you to raise
Sure.
taxes. Let's just stop being silly. That's not even close to what this item is. It may be their intent in the future, the organization's intent, or people that support EELS intent, but that wasn't my intent.
Here's the problem. I think the two, to a large degree, are inextricably intertwined. If you're putting us, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the best analogy, but if you have an item to have people vote to step on the train track, they're going to get hit by the train eventually. And if this is something that indirectly leads us to be in a position where it's more likely that we raise taxes in the future, I'll grant you full well, you're 100% accurate. This in and of itself is not going to raise taxes a penny for anyone. I just don't want to take that additional step at this time. And I respect your opinion. I think it's, it's certainly logical from that standpoint.
We're not even considering putting it on the ballot. We don't even have language for ballot. We have nothing. We are so far removed from it.
But
And
this
it's
put-
okay if you disagree with it.
Sure.
I get it. But it's nothing, it's not like it's some harebrained idea that, you know what I mean, that's got us to, oh, we have a deadline to get something on the ballot. Let's give it to Eden to drop some, we're not even anywhere close to that. But if you don't want to conduct the poll, I'm okay with that. I just don't want this blown out of complete proportion like it's appeared to go down this rabbit hole about that it isn't. So it's fine, but,
Can I
I mean,
interject
we can keep
something here?
talking in circles about it, but.
Sure, and I'm going to stand up my prior
I was gonna say,
arguments with
I'll call
it.
the question, and I'm just going to
Well,
make a
I'd
motion.
like to just make one point.
Commissioner Smith?
When they did the, and I'm assuming they'll do the same kind of thing here, when they did the ballot referendum for the waterway sales tax, they put the actual wording that they were going to use on the ballot. So you'll be able, it's not going to be skewed to make it like you're suggesting that where you're going to get stepping on a train track or, it's going to be the actual language that they intend to use on the ballot. So you'll get a real feel for whether they're leading you down a garden path or if they're being straightforward, and this is what it is. So,
We could
and
ask for
again,
the poll questions after they're done the survey. We can also do that.
and you're also just giving people a chance to voice their opinions. We have our opinions, the public has their opinions. So if the public wants to do it or don't do it, it's strictly up to them as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to dictate to the public what they should and shouldn't support.
May I?
That statement may come back to haunt me.
Yeah.
I
No.
can't imagine anybody up here would do that, but
No, I agree with that. You know, polls give the community sometimes an ability to respond to what they're thinking and feeling. And, you know, as far as them being able to do this, I don't mind, you know, and then it's always up to us in the decision. I just wanted you guys to know that, you know, I'm going to really struggle with putting anything else on the ballot. I'm actually going to probably vote for your budget request this year. So you know, it's just, I just don't know where we're at right now. But I like all these guys, and they're good people. But, you know, even with the Indian River Lagoon, a lot of people supported that. I don't know where they would be at this point, you know, if it came up for ballot, because, again, people are struggling to feed their families. So as far as just doing a poll, ma'am, I agree with you. I think it's an okay thing to do, and I'm going to support you on this.
Can I call the question?
Yes, absolutely. All right, we'll go ahead and call the question. So we've had them, you all have the motion in the second?
No, I was trying to make a motion.
All right, so your motion is?
Motion to approve a letter to send to the Natural Conservatory requesting poll and survey and information regarding eels.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Isnardi and a second from Commissioner Pritchett? Sure. All right, we do. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Passes 3-2 with Commissioner Tobias and myself in the negative.
Sorry, you have to sign that letter, Chairman.
I'll sign the letter. I'm not going to play games with that, don't worry. J3, all right, we have, looks like Commissioner Tobias' district, revocation of authority of the Barefoot Bay Recreation District. Ms. Bentley, what is the minimum we have to read into the record with respect to this?
I think just the subject matter.
Okay, so revocation of authority of the Barefoot Bay Recreation District to collect its assessments in the manner provided for ad valorem taxes under Chapter 197 Florida statute. Sufficient?
Yes.
Perfect. Any public comment on this one?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Motion, Commissioner Tobias?
Motion to accept, Mr. Chair.
All right, motion to approve item J3. I'll second it. All in favor of approving item J3, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, J4, proposed fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budget of Bayfront CRA, City of Palm Bay.
We have Kathy Wall here if you want an introduction or questions, and I believe Palm Bay staff might be downstairs.
Okay. I'm happy to do this with as much or as little intro as folks want. I know the agenda item's been on here for a while. What do y'all like?
Can I make a quick
Yes,
comment?
please, Commissioner Tobias.
Since the CRA falls within the district I represent, I went over, and my staff went over the budget, and in all honesty and full disclosure, we missed something. That woman right there, Kathy Wall, did not. So she found $20,000 that we think was probably an unfortunate misallocation. She got it corrected. And I want to thank her for her detailed work. This is something that we were staying on top of and completely missed it. So, Bill, you're fired. Kathy, if you want a job, you're more than welcome. Thank you so much for double checking our work.
Billy can come to our office.
Perfect.
So
with
motion to
that-
accept, yes.
Motion to accept. All right, I'll second the motion, Commissioner Tobias, to approve J4. So all in favor of J4, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, any public comment beyond what we had earlier, Jim?
No, you have item J5.
Oh, that's right, the add-on.
Yeah, the Sheriff's Byrne Memorial Grant, Justice Grant Assistance, and they're requesting that you give permission to participate and accept the grant solicitation.
May I have a motion? All right, motion from Commissioner Pritchett. I'll second the motion. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of approving item J5, the add-on, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, now to public comment.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jim.
And it looks like you have 6 speakers for this.
All right, let's get rolling.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak here today.
Could you start with your name and the city you reside in? And if you could
Yes.
speak up just a touch, I'd really appreciate it.
Yes, my name
Thanks.
is Teresa Johns. I live in Cocoa, and my husband and I own 2 vacation rentals, one in Cape Canaveral and one in Cocoa Beach. We operate them ourselves. It happens to be my sole source of income, so we've been extremely impacted by this. I'm not going to go through and re-express what other speakers have done a very good job expressing and we have been experiencing and we are asking for. What I'd like to do is just add 2 quick points to make sure you consider as you put together, and I appreciate the fact that it's planning to be brought forward as an item for you guys to go ahead and look at submitting a plan to the state. First of all, I would like to ask that you please create a reasonable safety plan, one that is fair along with what the hotels need to do, the motels and the timeshares, and not excessive. You know, I have a copy of other counties' plan. 2 plans were submitted on Friday by other counties already to the state, and I have a copy of one of them. It's only 3 pages. It basically just outlines the CDC guidelines and DBPR requirements for lodging. And there's a couple other points in there. I'd be happy to share that with you. But I just ask that. And the second point I'd like to make is please expedite getting this done. Like I said, 2 counties have already done this, and there are many people anxiously awaiting to reopen business in a safe way, and we'd like to do that. So we ask for your help.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel Sadoff.
They have to lower the mic, I'm a little short.
Welcome.
Welcome, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here with Marion Ambrose, who is the president of Green Gables. And I'm here to bring up in front of you that Green Gables is on a deadline of June 1st of a hope to buy the property that is located in Melbourne off of US 1, and it is a historical building, and I have a little bit of information for you about the building. It's the Wells House, which was built in 1896. It's the oldest Queen Anne architecture here. Green Gables has been working tirelessly to obtain this house and purchase it from the family, from the estate, and the deadline for that is nearing. They are $69,000 short. To date, they have raised over $440,000 to save this property. COVID-19 obviously caused them a little problem where some of their fundraising could not take place. However, I do believe that money would have been raised. I bring this to the commission because I'm not sure who is aware of this building and this beautiful home, and in hopes that it brings to light to you something you might be interested in assisting with. If there's something that the county can help Green Gables, Ms. Ambrose would obviously be very thankful for that. And I have her up here if there's any questions for me. it has been acting as a educational place for children. And I can tell you with COVID-19, it has changed the way that we educate our children. And with distance learning and kids not going to class, this has become even more special to me for the children, for the seniors. They've adopted some senior classes and some other items that would be able to help the community and provide a history and clearly an educational background for our youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Rachel? And thanks again for your help on that other matter earlier this week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Rachel.
Thank you.
I heard you turned 21.
I did.
Welcome.
Krishna Tawadia, Merritt Island. All right. Equal rights should be something that is universally guaranteed to the people. Ever since the Founding Fathers set this country up upon the principle of equal rights, we still had to fight against injustice, despite how obvious it has been since the beginning that equality is equality and that this is a God-given right. That is why me and my friends are here today to fight for a human rights ordinance. Now, this is a principle that should be guaranteed throughout the entire country, yet here we are fighting for basic human rights in our county. The cause we fight for may seem like an inconvenience to others, and it is a part of the reason no one here has yet agreed to vote for our proposal. And to them I must say, civil rights are never overreaches. The reason the United States exists today is because the Founding Fathers acknowledged that the purpose of government is to ensure that everyone has their rights protected. Thomas Jefferson addressed the value of these rights in the Declaration of Independence, where he wrote, quote, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. Leaders such as Martin Luther King and JFK, as well as thousands of others, have lost their lives for these principles. And in our day and age, the decision to fight for them and to enact something like a human rights ordinance is so painfully easy. The rights of one are never more valuable than the rights of another. We can see this simply based off the principle of equality. When the Constitution tells us that we all have religious protection, we cannot forget that it also tells us that we all have equal rights, equal protection, and due process. We cannot let one person use their rights to justify taking away the rights of someone else. To quote George Orwell, we must not allow some people to be more equal than others. We must not live in a world where our rights here in the United States can be compared to the communist dystopia of Animal Farm. Yet here I am right now. Some people have let their misunderstandings of the LGBTQ+ community come in the way of their basic human rights. The only overreach here is saying that one person's freedom should infringe on another. There is no benefit in letting a tyrannical majority control a group that has every single possible claim to their God-given rights. Yet right now, some claim that due to their religious rights, they should be able to deny the very right to exist in peace to a group whom they misunderstand. This kind of immorality has existed forever, and not to mention the way it was used against African Americans during the civil rights movements, before that, during it, and since. You cannot allow yourselves to be the George Wallaces of the time period who will forever have their legacies maligned by how they used rights such as religion to infringe upon the humanity of African Americans. There is no backing for it in the principles of our government due to equality, but even in the realm of religion, there is simply no backing for denying humanity to others who have wronged you in no way. I can think of no religion where actively degrading other equal human beings who have done nothing wrong is okay. And to quote that great woman from earlier, God bless our county. Thank you.
Thank you. And just real quickly on that, because I think there may be a couple of other speakers on the same topic.
Yes, sir.
And I believe this may have been addressed at the last commission meeting. There is currently, to my understanding, and Ms. Bentley, I welcome you to correct me if I'm at all incorrect or if I leave out anything that you think is essential. There's currently at least one challenge in appellate court based on the constitutionality of some legislation that's substantially similar, if not almost identical to what's been proposed. So at least from my perspective, the reason at present that I've not done anything with respect to this is because I want to see how that pans out. The last thing I want to do is put in place legislation that's unconstitutional, because that doesn't benefit anyone by getting false hopes up. But depending on how that turns out, I think you may see some action one way or the other.
May I speak on that, sir?
Just real briefly.
Sure, of course. So in talking about the constitutionality of that thing, first of all, before that's been established, I think we still have every reason to come here and fight and do something about that before they've done something. Because, I mean, if it hasn't been addressed that way, we might as well address it. And if they were to say that was unconstitutional, we would be here to fight against that. We would be fighting that fight no matter what. And I think that that has no relevance to deciding this issue.
I respect that. Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Stephen Meikle, and today I'm going to...
We can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Could you get a little closer and speak up?
My name is Stephen Meikle, and today I'm going to talk about the HRO ordinance.
Stephen, could I just ask you to put your city of residence on the record, too, for everyone?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Just the city that you reside in?
Oh, Melbourne,
Thank
Florida.
you.
Yeah. It was January 29th, 2019. A young student confined to his recurrently pernicious thoughts of insignificance drooped over stacks of paperwork. The mood was dismal and encapsulated by somber expression. Gazing into the piercing light of his table lamp, an abrupt stream of futility and purposelessness became suddenly unbearable. This student, perhaps constrained by the impediments of societal implicit bias, was experiencing an insurmountable internal conflict. As a matter of fact, this student witnessed impetuous disapproval from his beloved grandmother, colleagues, and classmates whose unconditional love was what he ever knew. Such deplorable words manifested and vigorously ravaged the stability of the student's mind. No longer could he envision a meaningful path of persistence. No longer could the solace of education shield him from the unprecedented words from those destitute of receptiveness and empathy. Thus, a culminating act ensued, an act that was an emphatic call for help. After the discouraging coming out phone call with his grandmother, the student eyed the buckle on his reversible leather belt, the one hanging in the eerie dark of his closet. Visibly distraught and sobbing, the student staggered towards what seemed as an unavoidable escape. As he stood there in silence and solitude, his knees eventually caved inwards with trepidation. The formidable and tangible universe was now a sensationless void. Consciousness was seemingly consigned to oblivion. Now that I have lived to tell the tale of attempted suicide, I recognize that my deleterious introspection had opposed how certain others view me. Having learned the incentive to live, I realize now that the meaning of life is to accept my authenticity, plead for help in times of need, and invoke reformational change through advocacy. Harvey Milk did not have the chance to live. Amaya Tyree was shot. Blaise Bernstein was stabbed. Ahmed Said was executed. All these delightful and impactful lives in the U.S. were lost not by choice. Legal recognition of sexual and gender minorities in the U.S. is still undermined by the overwhelming stigma in Brevard County and in Florida. In Florida, there is not a single law that prohibits discrimination against LGBTQ+ people. The absence of legal protection permits workplace discharge, house eviction, and the denial of hospitality services to LGBTQ+ people. All of these legal actions can ensue just by expressing a certain identity that someone else may not like. Having abided this normalcy and been psychologically constrained to what we know as defeatism, the need for LGBTQ+ of this HRO ordinance it has never been this preeminent. Inclusivity and understanding is the key to opening the gate to universal rapture and human civility. Solace lies in diversity and not uniformity. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Jacob Gelman from Melbourne, Florida. I walked into a government building today built around codes designed for the establishment of equity. I walked into a government building that, in accordance with the ADA, is accessible to those with disabilities. Did these regulations take away my liberty? I walked into a government building today built around laws designed for the establishment of racial equality. I walked into a government building that, in accordance with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, mandates your inability to fire based on race. Did these regulations take away my liberty? And yet, I did not walk into a government building today that includes in the protected classes of individuals sexual orientation and gender identity. I did not walk into a government building that has even internal regulations preventing this discrimination. I did not even walk into a building that has any type of anti-discrimination or civil rights ordinance. So now I ask why your lack of regulation must take away my liberty. Do we not universally ascribe to values of equality? Is equality not a ubiquitous feature of the role of governmental protection? Equality defined not as more but same. Equality being a feature lacking in the building which I walked into today. When I consider equality in Brevard, many questions come to mind. What is equality to that person who was fired because of your inaction? What is equality to that child who sits through government-condoned torture in the form of conversion therapy? These questions have no answer because the people asking them have no practical manifestation of equality in the first place. Stripped of protection by your inaction, existing with perceived inferiority due to other superiority. Do we not universally ascribe to values of democracy? Is it not the preconceived ideology that fueled the revolution which created the nation we exist in today? Democracy defined not merely as equal participation in government, but also as equal protection provided by it. When I consider democracy in Brevard, many questions come to mind. What to the government is democracy when it allows the tyranny of the majority? What to the government is democracy when they are disavowing equal participation in political society whilst maintaining subjugation within society more generally? These questions have no answer because the institution questioned within them, for as long as there is their allowance of inequality, has created the conditions for the mitigation of democracy. Do we not universally ascribe to the protection of the Constitution? Do we not accept the state as that entity which protects this Constitution? July 28, 1868, the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution was ratified. In it, the establishment of a guarantee stating no state shall deny the equal protection of the laws. Yet what to the person without equal protection is the 14th Amendment? What to that person is your guarantee to protect the Constitution? When attempting to answer that question, Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter stated that it is a fair summary of constitutional history that our liberties have often been forged in cases involving not very nice people. I tend to agree. I agree because the unjustified subjugation of another entity by a more powerful force does not merely amount to inequality, it amounts to violence, and that state which commits it is a violent one. Harvey Milk said before his assassination that hope will never be silent. I tend to agree. I tend to ascribe to the viewpoint that it spreads like wildfire, capturing the collective imagination of those willing to dream. I tend to believe that like wildfire, it will burn down every force or institution that stands in its way to the achievement of growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out for public comment, sir.
And if I may speak on the court case you brought up earlier.
I can give you just a few seconds, but that's really it in fairness to everyone else that's been here today.
Okay, so the Supreme Court case you brought up earlier is not asking about the constitutionality, it's simply asking about whether it's implied in the definition of sex, so you still have the ability to implement the legislation.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Is that it as far as public comment's concerned? All right, board reports. Who's filling in for Mr. Vacate today? Is that you or John?
That's myself, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have no report.
Okay, Ms. Bentley.
I have no report, but depending on what Commissioner Tobias says, I may have some documents prepared. I don't know where that one's going, but I followed Bay County, if that gives you any hint.
Okay. Commissioner Pritchett.
No report.
All right, I'll go here. I've got a few things. First, I'm not taking hydroxychloroquine, prophylactically or otherwise. Pardon the joke. That was a Trump thing. He got on the news the other day and mentioned that he was taking it prophylactically, and that caused kind of an uproar. I do need to make sure that the commission's okay with something. I spoke with Linda Weatherman, I believe it was yesterday, or maybe the day prior, about the location for U.S. Space Command, and she is trying to do what she can within the EDC to encourage it to be located here. I'd like to sign off, and she's asked that I sign off on a letter, which is not yet complete, that's going to go at a minimum to Governor DeSantis and also to Space Florida for the purpose of trying to secure U.S. Space Command here in Brevard. I don't know that we need a formal motion, but does anyone have any objection to that? Because I'd like to do it. Whether it helps or not remains to be seen, but it can't hurt.
It's a great idea.
All right, sounds good.
Didn't we do something similar already once?
I think we did, but this is essentially going at a different stage in the procedure. So we're still in the running, which is a great thing. The fact we haven't been knocked out is wonderful. And if it works, excellent. And if it doesn't, we're no worse off than we were when we started. Only thing beyond that as to what I expect to come up here pretty soon with Commissioner Tobias' report. I think there are a few things that we do want to keep in mind, because I think, voting for this, there are going to be some folks that wonder whether we've done even the most basic diligence insofar as reopening the vacation rentals, and I'm still going to vote to reopen them. But I want to acknowledge, I understand that most of the folks that are coming here and staying, whether it's in a hotel, a motel, or a vacation rental, or any other short-term rental, they're coming from higher positivity areas. I think almost as a universal truth, that's the fact. I do want to say as well, to play devil's advocate, most of the folks that are coming here to stay beachside aren't doing that to self-isolate. They're not going to pay the elevated rates to stay in a beachside county, certainly beachside municipality or a beachside unincorporated area, so that they can sit at home all day or sit in the condo all day on the internet. I don't think that's the case. They're almost certainly going to go out and about. But the truth is, that's not really a primary consideration for me. The primary consideration for me in terms of any kind of a regulation that we've looked at, that we've implemented, that we've considered implementing, has been whether or not the health systems are in danger of being overrun, whether they're in danger of either not having enough staff or not having enough PPE or running out of beds, running out of ventilators, whatever the case may be. And keeping up with the healthcare systems in this county, it doesn't sound that we're remotely in danger of that coming to pass at this point. So despite the fact that, yeah, we will have more people who are sick with COVID and with other things for that matter coming in, I don't think that in and of itself justifies us taking an authoritarian stance with respect to keeping them shut, especially when we didn't shut them in the first place. People are ultimately responsible for making their own risk tolerance decisions. I can tell you that it's tough when you talk about legislating subjective standards in terms of what one's risk tolerance ought to be. What I can tell you is anyone that thinks that there's an undue risk by going out, they can stay home. There have been many things that I've stayed home from because I think the risk is undue. Could we legislate something here to reduce the risk? Absolutely, we could do that, but I don't know that that's right. I think that legislation in terms of restricting people from doing anything they're otherwise entitled to do or able to do should only be done when there are extreme circumstances, not in the sense now where we're looking at, well, we could make it a little bit better by either making a restriction or enabling an existing restriction to remain in place. So, I'm going to support the motion in all likelihood. I would ask, though, that at a minimum, we recommend in the motion that these folks follow CDC guidelines and, as was mentioned, DBPR requirements. I think if they're requirements anyway, so I don't know how important it is to really get into that, but certainly I would, at least as a aspirational goal, encourage them to maintain compliance with all the CDC guidelines, and that's all I've got. Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this will be the second time I've done something that I normally don't or have not done before. I'm going to ask that we authorize staff to draft and submit a request DBPR secretary to operate vacation rentals and to submit a safety plan.
Second.
Just to be clear, we have a meeting next week, and I generally don't like to make motions, that are substantive in nature and board reports, though we just got this a couple days ago. So it would be my intent to give authorization, but if anyone was more cautious and wanted to wait till our next meeting, I certainly would understand with hesitation when it came to that. I mentioned this to Ms. Bentley, and I think she did some work, so yes.
Over the weekend, I emailed you a copy of the Bay County plan that was submitted. I didn't know where this was going, so I have a draft, basically the Bay County plan, but adopted to Brevard County, and I did include references to the CDC and the DBPR, that's the Department of Professional and Business Regulations, that they would follow those guidelines as well.
Thanks, Jim.
And other than that, it's almost exactly like the Bay County order that was submitted. I checked the website last night to see if any of these plans, there are actually 7 plans that have been submitted. Osceola and Bay County are almost identical. I could not see that any had been approved yet, but that was last night. I don't know what has happened today.
It's still 0 today.
It's still 0. Oh,
Okay.
Mr. Liesenfeld just checked.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of Commissioner Tobias' motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anything else?
No.
All right. Commissioner Pritchett, did we do you yet? Yes, sir. All right, we've gone. Commissioner Tobias, we just did you. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This, again, as your item, this is brand new. We have an opportunity to aid the opening of a business, and so I'm going to just quickly give you the facts. USSSA has been canceling their tournaments all throughout this period, and obviously because they've been doing that, they haven't made any money, just like a lot of other businesses. Well, now they have a 75-team tournament scheduled for this coming weekend, and they're in limbo because the governor hasn't made any decisions about amateur sports. Last week, he came out and said professional sports were good. So I contacted numerous people, including the governor's office, to see if he was inclined to make a decision or what that decision might be. Long story short, while we were on our break, I was informed that the governor has decided that he's going to leave it up to the counties. So our direction was it's totally up to us if USSSA can run the 75-team tournament. Now, I will tell you that USSSA has been running tournaments in 3 other states already. They've already got down the whole sanitizing the bats before they're touched and the balls and the social distancing and as USSSA told me, this is really a better suited place than any of the other tournaments that they've run in the other 3 states because their dugouts are bigger, they have more fields to play on so they can keep people separate. So I'm coming before the board to ask if you guys would support a motion to allow USSSA to open this weekend and put all their safety ideas and things that they've implemented already in place and run this tournament.
As long as they follow the guidelines, I'll support opening anything.
Me too.
Okay, so second, who wants to
I'll second it in that case.
Okay.
Sounds like a motion from Commissioner Smith. I'll treat it as such. I'll second it. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, do we need a letter sent to the governor's?
No, the governor said it's totally up to the county.
Let's just in an abundance of caution, Commissioner Smith, if you'd be willing to modify your motion to include and authorize the commission chair to sign any documentation required or any correspondence required to effectuate the request.
If necessary, absolutely.
Perfect. And the second stands. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Super.
All right, Commissioner Isnardi, last but not least.
I'm sorry, I have an item, I have an issue, and hopefully it doesn't get too crazy, it goes down the rabbit hole. I already brought it to county staff, and they're already pulling their hair out, if that's possible, for Jim over there.
Oh, that's cold. That's cold.
No.
I didn't have to get it cut.
What do you say about me?
I adore Jim Liesenfeld, and he knows it. He's one of my favorite people. So anyway, summer camp. I found out, through social media that we are canceling summer camp, and this is concerning to me because then because of social media uproar, residents started reaching out, and my concern is, we've opened up the economy again. People are going back to work. We've already had people have to modify their childcare and become teachers because they're teaching from home, and some people are now being allowed to go back to work, and we've canceled the summer program. Now, whether or not you think government should be doing a summer camp is a whole separate issue. The point is, it's an affordable program that people were counting on, and canceling it this late in the game when they're just now going back to work, I think is a bad idea. I know that we probably will have to jump through hoops to make it open, but I think that we should do whatever we can to make sure that we're running those programs. And even if they're at 50%, it's better than nothing. But I think that we can follow the guidelines. Other places are doing it, and I think that we would be irresponsible just to cut it out now because, again, people are scrambling.
Commissioner, help the childless among us. I'm trying to figure out, can you give me a little more background in terms of who's technically running it and where it happens?
The county's running it, and I just found out.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, okay, all right, perfect.
2 days ago that we weren't doing it, but I found out
Okay.
through Facebook because there was a parent that was outraged. And whether or not we should have been informed a different way doesn't matter. That's water under the bridge, and I'm sure it wasn't anybody's ill intent not to let the commissioners know, but obviously, they don't call you, they call us. So I want to make sure that, I was told we can't do it or it's too hard, but I believe that we can. And I haven't been told yet that we can't. I just know that it might be difficult for us, but I want to see if the board has a desire to ask the county to do it.
I don't mind, especially if we can do it at a smaller amount to what they can do. I think there was some employee situation where they had to pull it over to help other organizations. So I think they had staffing problems, but I agree with you.
But that's not anybody's fault, but the county's. you
Right,
know.
it's our fault. I agree with that.
I know a lot of teenagers that are looking for jobs this summer, so.
I know, and you know what, there's a lot of places starting to hire again. And I also, as soon as we can, would like to get youth sports, especially the outside ones, back up and running. So anything we can do
And
to
maybe
get-
we do what they're doing, sorry, I don't mean to cut you
That's
off.
okay.
We do what we're doing at other facilities, a simple temperature check at check-in. I mean,
That's
they
a
do
good
it,
idea.
they do it, employees do it.
Yeah. We have a daycare right now, and we're still real low on numbers, but parents are starting to go back to work, and we're starting to get the kids back again.
Right. I get my temperature checked when I go to my other part-time job. I mean, it's just something
I'm
we do
sure
just
you
to make
have
sure
to,
we're
'cause
keeping
you're
everybody
out
safe.
there. Yeah.
Right.
Do you have one of those temperature things, they just aim it at your head, they don't even have to touch it?
You have to have a high-end one, otherwise they're not, you could take your temperature 4 times and get 4 different temperatures. So if you have to have the $300-$400 one.
It's funny, when I went to the public safety building on Florida Ave in Rockledge, Chief Schollmeyer said, "Do you mind if I shoot you?" And then he pulled out his little temperature gauge. I said, "Oh, with that, sure."
You're better off with the tympanic.
So Star Trek.
But you're better off with the tympanic membrane, like an ear thermometer, than you are with the forehead one that you can buy at Walgreens, just because they're not as accurate as what you would have in the hospital system.
I think Mary Ellen Donor's
Yes,
here.
can we get staff's perspective?
Come on down, Mary
But
Ellen.
I think they were having staffing problems a bit, but
They were having staffing problems because they were being pulled, because they
You're
were
right.
anticipating us being
they got
closed.
moved to other places, you're right.
Sorry, Mary.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mary Ellen Donner, Parks and Recreation Director, Brevard County. We did take a look at a lot of literature regarding summer camp and the types of, I guess, precautions we would have to take in order to do this. And the staff and I had very lengthy discussions, very many discussions over the last number of weeks. And some of the issues that we came up with is that if we ran a summer camp for ages, say 6 to 11, which is shorter than we would have, it would be relatively difficult to keep children 6 feet apart, which of course is our main non-contact type of activity. We actually did come up with a schematic that had a 6-foot block in a gym that we could keep children apart. Not necessarily a good type of atmosphere to have young children that are very interactive and very contact-oriented. We actually kind of looked at the school district to see if we had any type of indication from them as to how they would be proceeding come fall, or if they had gone back to school this last 2 weeks. We talked about face masks both on our staff and on our children, and thought, well, our success rate of probably keeping a face mask on a child would not be very good. We talked about having them provide the face mask and us perhaps having replacement face masks, because if they get wet or they get dirty or whatever. We also looked at some of the guidelines from some of the other camp associations, and they said, well, do as many things outdoors as you can, which of course in the Florida environment, it's very hot, and if we have a normal summer, it's going to rain every other afternoon. We looked at the ratio of, currently we're in phase 1 and you're looking at groups of 10. So we would have to have 2 counselors per 8 kids, which would dramatically reduce the summer camp enrollment. And how would we, if we reached capacity that quickly, how would we pick and choose? So if we had a low number of, say, 50 per facility, when we get that 50, we would have to limit that summer camp registration. There would be no field trips. It would be difficult. Right now, there's not a lot of organizations that are open to go to field trips. We would not really be able to have children play with each other because they're not supposed to contact. And so we thought individual activities could occur, but it wouldn't be a fun summer camp. We like to give quality programs with as much value to them. So, our core mission is to obviously be fun, but our overriding thought was safety. Safety of the children when they go home, and safety of the staff and facilities and kids when they come back, because we would only be able to control the environment at camp. We wouldn't control anyone who went out of camp. So, of course, we will do whatever the Board of County Commissioners instructs us to do, but we had a lot of long conversations, and this was not a difficult, it was a very difficult decision. This was not an easy decision to make. We looked at FIT, who about 3 weeks ago canceled their summer camps. Indian Harbor Beach, if I'm not mistaken, had canceled their summer camps. So it was a very difficult decision to come to.
If I can, excuse me, I'm sorry, if I could jump on Mary Ellen, I mean, this was talked about since March when we started talking about the building. I mean, this is literally one of the first things that we're all going through our head. And I mean,
did anybody think to bring it back to the board? Or if this was such a turmoil type situation, did anybody think that maybe that we would be asked about it or?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, we're more than happy to whatever the board wishes us to do. This year's summer camp, now it's been a long time since I've been to summer camp, will not be like a normal summer camp. I just wanted to let the board know, and if we can pull this off, it will be of some reduced capacity.
I don't think life is normal right now for anybody, and I think that instead of finding reasons why we can't do it or why we shouldn't, I think we just have to do our best to try to support those people who have to work. And that's, again, people don't have enough time. We waited to cancel. People don't have enough time to come up with other arrangements, and I don't want people not to work because they have to feed their families. And that's just where I'm coming from. I think we should be doing everything we can to, you're talking about, generally speaking, I mean, if we do the temperature checks, at least that's something, and that's something that's not too cumbersome for people to do. If we do whatever we can to support that, I don't see why we shouldn't. I mean, I would rather do our best and not have a completely perfect system and support those people that have to go back to work that counted on that program. Whether you agree with us doing the program or not, doesn't matter. That's maybe a discussion for next summer. But at least for this summer, I think that because it's so late in the game and because we have everything reopening, I think we need to do what we can to make sure that we're supporting those people that are going back to work.
Let me ask a question here, because I think I understand where you're at.
Can I ask a question? And this is a question you may want to ask, but as an attorney, you're smart enough not to ask the question.
Okay.
So,
I'm horrified.
Yes, yeah. Ms. Bentley, are there any liability issues that potentially?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Are there any liability issues that this could
Well, I
bring
was
up?
just writing, we need to check with risk management regarding campers to see if additional waivers will be required.
Which is, we have waivers for a lot of stuff, correct?
We do. I think we need to check with the insurance company and see exactly what type they would like. I believe they have been considering this type of issue in other types of fields. I think the sports industry has been considering this. So this isn't a new question for them, but I think we may have to take some extra steps, is what I'm saying.
But isn't unreasonable or unusual?
Oh, waivers are not unusual.
I mean, even this
they're routine.
Current, okay.
All right, since we've already started down that path, let me ask the follow-up. Are you fairly confident at this juncture that that's the variety of liability that we could, in fact, have someone waive?
Well, that is.
I just wonder if it's even waivable.
That's going to be tested. I don't think that we have COVID-19 lawsuits out there already. Certainly, you're hearing about it in the nursing home industry. But, if you're taking reasonable precautions, taking their temperature, checking them regularly.
Still getting listed as
doing the
defendants, no fun.
guidelines. I mean, it is not something that is an absolute answer either way. We would do our best, I'm sure.
Well, and I think with this issue, it's not an act that you can say, you caused me to have COVID, because you could have gotten it 14 days before, and nobody knows. By going to summer camp, you can't definitively say that your child got COVID, because your child could have gotten COVID.
And how many children cases have we had in Brevard County?
The problem, Commissioner Smith, at least in my mind, is you're not looking at saying it definitively. You just need better than even. I mean, preponderance is just that. It's whatever is microscopically over 50.
Aren't worth the paper they're written on.
But we just approved 75 teams playing softball, and
Yeah,
we're
but
worried
that's-
about if you
That's
guys.
them. That's private industry,
private
assuming liability. Yeah.
Do we charge for summer camp?
Yes.
Well, maybe, just make sure that we can, if we do this, just because I'm, going back on work experience, we're doing this already, we're taking the risk so that people can go to work where I am. So, there's no more than 10 people in the room, you keep the kids isolated, check the temps when they come in. It's a lot of work, and we do have to run the risk of making sure we're not doing anything to add increased liability. Because, even if you have a waiver, if you do anything that's outside of what should be done, you're jeopardizing that. So I think with Commissioner Isnardi's request, maybe you could just give us an analysis. Maybe you can do a smaller amount. But there's also all of these opportunities that are starting to open up. We're at 30% capacity right now. We offer these things too at a church. So there's a lot of places, daycares that are just now starting to open. And I know they got to increase their employment because they got the PPP loan. And so they've got to get their work numbers back up to workforce. So I think there are a lot of opportunities starting to open. But as Commissioner Isnardi stated, if we have parents that are going to be in a catch-22, maybe we can do something to come alongside with something. But I would love to see us to get up and going with our kids especially. But
And maybe a lottery system if we can have to limit the amount. That would be a fair and equitable.
Yeah.
Is that fair and equitable? Like a
Canadian lottery or American lottery?
I've never won the lottery, so.
So one of the ideas that we did have was that we would perhaps open in only select areas if it was something that the board desired. So we would look at perhaps one camp Central North and South, or 2 camps in Central North and South. We talked about perhaps people who are not going back to work might not need the service because they don't, at this point in some instances, have jobs to go back to because we are still in phase 1 of the governor's plan.
Can you select that, though? I mean, can you say you got to prove your employment, or is that being discriminatory?
No, we could say we'll open a camp at, say, Viera in Central. We would just pick a camp, and when that filled, perhaps we could move on to another.
Yeah. I just want to meet the needs of the people that are relying on that camp, that are going back to
Commissioners,
work.
what I'm hearing is the desire for summer camps, even if it's reduced, to make some effort. At
least for my support.
Yeah, well, of course,
Yeah,
obviously safely.
I don't want to run the risk of competing with the public sector either, if there's a supply of that also. So how do we do that? I know you're making eyebrows right
Oh,
now.
the private sector, I'm sorry, you got, I'm
Did I
just
say it
thinking
wrong?
I'm just thinking about ways to control attendance. So if we had a Jim Liesenfeld public transportation summer camp, or a Benninghoff,
There'd be nobody
civil
there.
engineering,
Put them all on the bus.
Yeah.
But I do know capacity of most of those places now are still pretty low, and they're trying to build up populations. I don't think you're going to have a mad rush out for it, especially since we charge. If it was free, I think we were in trouble.
So let me clarify the charge portion. There are certain areas of the county that we charge less because there's economic strategic areas. And so we want to make sure that people, if we do this, that people from, say, Viera don't go up and fill up Titusville's camps, because it's at a reduced rate because of where it is. And camp fees are Parks and Recreation fee based. So that's not a daycare. It's a daycare is more complicated and more expensive than a summer camp. So And we have increased staffing that normally we would have one counselor to 20 kids. And kids are goats. I'm not supposed to call them kids. I'm supposed to call them children. So instead of, 1 to 20, we would have to have probably 2 to 8.
Yeah, we know a lot of the children that fit in the lower income criteria, they get ELC, so they're paid for fully at a private one too. So you're just going to have to run that and give us some ideas so that we don't have any children left at home by themselves. I think that's your thought.
And if the demand gets crazy and unmanageable, just let us know, and we'll either say, we're doing our best, or we're going to open up a few more, or we're going to, because we want to support you too. We want to make sure that you have the money to do it and the resources you need to do it, because I know Parks and Rec's budget is not always the largest budget in the county. But I mean, we want to help you too. I just want to make sure we're supporting our community that's going back into the workforce, who've been at home with their kids being teachers and everything else, waiting for their job to open back up.
Might be an idea too, is to get a list of all of those facilities that are reopened now, get some of the resources into parents' hands too, so they have options. I know you love that idea. I can just tell by your face.
Doesn't she just look enamored with it?
Jim, do you have direction?
Yes.
I know.
Good.
I know you
Somewhat,
want to
yes.
punch me right now, but that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, if the board's in agreement, assuming.
I think we're at least close enough to being on the same spot with that. Anything further?
That's it.
All right, let's see what time it is. We are going to go ahead and adjourn at 12:54. Thank you all.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.